There it is. Welcome back to the Healthy with Heartland podcast. My name is Justin. I am your host. Today, we are also joined with your favorite creative directors, Simon and Shannon. We also have AJ on today, Heartland's own AJ. Some of you know her, some of you don't, but you will after this episode. And special guest, Peter Watts. We are going to get a proper intro for him in a minute. But before we get to that, let's send it over to Simon and Shannon for some announcements.
All right. Welcome back, Heartland family. It is an exciting day today. We have a bunch of stuff to cover. First, let's go over your reorder special for this month. So if you're a Heartland customer, you can get a summer grilling pack with your order absolutely free. Any 10 servings of our 4-ounce burgers, chicken cutlets, and pork cutlets. So make sure to take advantage of that so you can be the envy of all your summer neighborhood barbecues. We also have an M&M guessing contest going on the Heartland page, which is going to be announced tomorrow. So if you have not put in how many M&Ms you think are in there, make sure to go ahead and do so. As you all know and have been seeing our Hungry with Heartland contest, we have been doing a contest where you can post a photo of your dinner or your meal and use the hashtag Hungry with Heartland. We want to thank everyone who has been participating. Thank you for the amazing food photos. You've definitely made us all hungry. We would love to announce the winner for the contest grand prize, who is Rachel Eluzzi. Hey, congratulations, Rachel. You are our lucky grand prize winner. Should we tell her what she's won?
Let her know.
All right, Rachel, you are the winner of a sous vide, brand new Anova sous vide. It's Bluetooth controlled. It'll help you continue cooking like a pro. So congratulations. Don't stop those amazing food photos. Make sure to continue posting on our Heartland Foodies group. We love hearing what's for dinner. And after that, Simon, if you could give us a quick drum roll, we'd love to announce our winner for our June contest, which we'll have AJ announce. Drum roll, please.
And our $1,000 winner is El Gallipo.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes, El, hooray.
Congrats. You are our lucky $1,000 winner. Thank you so much for participating. And with that, let's get into the episode.
All right, so today, special guest, Peter Watts. He is an endurance cyclist, photographer, and retreat coordinator. He's a Maryland native, but has spent a lot of time traveling on his health and wellness journey. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into all the philanthropy organizations, all the great work that he's doing. Peter is on a mission to be a resource for those looking to lead a happier, healthier life. So, Peter Watts, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here with you guys.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. We have so many questions, but I guess let's start with just your background and how you even got onto the health and wellness journey to begin with.
Oh, man. So I'm very long-winded, so I'll do my best to keep this brief. For most of my life, I was pretty unhealthy. So up until like my late 20s, I was a heavy smoker. I drank excessively. I ate terribly. And, I had a lot of struggles with depression, anxiety, just being generally discontent and uncomfortable in my body. And then I was 29. At the time, I was living in Mexico, and I was sitting on my sofa playing FIFA and just having a hard time breathing. And I think it was like, and it wasn't like a one-off thing. It was like a consistent pattern. And so I'd get all stressed out about not being able to breathe, and that would make me want a cigarette, and it was this vicious cycle, and I felt lost because I'd tried to, quit a number of times. And, I decided that enough was enough. I needed to make some big changes. So, I quit my sales job at the time, moved back to Maryland. I'd been introduced to massage therapy about 6 or 7 years prior, and I decided to pursue that. I think I just wanted a completely different lifestyle. I wanted to have a little bit more meaning and purpose in my life. So I liked the idea of showing up for others. And, I got into massage school. I, managed to quit smoking, which was kind of interesting because I'm super stubborn. So if you tell me not to do something, it's like all I want to do. And I'd tried gum, I tried Chantix, all that stuff that didn't work. The only thing that ended up working was I told myself I could smoke as many cigarettes as I wanted. I just had to run a mile first. And I would run that mile, and I'd be dry heaving. I'd really be struggling. But after that mile, I wouldn't want a cigarette. And I just powered through for like the first week was really tough, and honestly, like even now, like I haven't smoked in a while. But, like when I walk by somebody who's smoking, like I'll slow down. I like to smell it a little bit. But anyway, ultimately, like I got into running, quit smoking. I noticed that if I slept better, my running performance improved. I started to make an association with the way food impacted my health as well, and not just physical. Having a lifelong battle with anxiety and depression, I really noticed the way, like when I would eat clean, that stuff, it wouldn't disappear completely. I think that is something that I will probably deal with in some capacity for most of my life, but it was greatly diminished and became much more manageable. And yeah, I don't know. I really just started going down the rabbit hole earlier before the podcast. You had mentioned Audible University.
Right.
And I read an embarrassing amount of self-help books, but they were so helpful. Like, I was like, oh, man, this is like great. I've got to invest all this time, and it's really just made a big impact. So, like, I mean, to kind of like bring this all to like where I am now, like, I started my massage practice, specialized in pain management. In my own personal like journey, I started to realize that I had information that I could now give to others and help them on their journey. And so I'm kind of just continuing forward with that. I'm going to pause for a second and let you respond before I talk straight for the next 25 minutes.
Well, I mean,
All right.
first he kind of just briefly went over your move to Mexico. I want to know kind of like what inspired that. Like what was that all about?
Man, all right. So like, I've always loved the country. I really enjoy just novel experiences. When I was an exchange student, I went down to Mexico, met this amazing woman, and we dated briefly for like 3 weeks, and we were both like super stubborn, so like the relationship didn't work out then. When I left Mexico, I always kind of thought about her. We reconnected later, and it was easier for me to go down there and explore a relationship with her than for her to come to the States. And I love the country. I speak the language. I resonate with the culture. I mean, I absolutely love it, and it's a beautiful country. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's really cool.
So let's get into these bike rides.
Yo viví en Cuernavaca por un año y medio, y luego yo viví en Acapulco. ¿De dónde eres?
Acapulco?
No, ¿de dónde eres?
Oh.
Puerto Rico.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Boricuas.
You speak Spanish well. Yeah.
But yeah, Justin, do you have something?
Yeah, so I noticed you've been doing these bike rides, right? And it's for a good cause, and you're about to do one, attempting to do 500-mile solo ride to raise money for the Horizon Day Camp in Baltimore. So I guess tell us a little bit about how you got into that and how you all are impacting the community with it.
All right. So, yeah, I have these 2 rides coming up. I think I can give you the story of how I got into all this. A client of mine from massage was a big cyclist, had been talking it up for years, and finally said to me, hey, I found a bike. It's a lot of fun. Why don't you give it a go? And so I bought this bike, started cycling, and almost instantly I was ready to, see how far I could take that. Really just gravitated toward it, found a lot of peace in cycling. There is something about that longer riding that really helps me kind of steady the waters. I do my best thinking. And then, I mean, I love social media. I feel like it has a really bad rap, but I feel like if it's like any tool, you can use it to like, bang your foot, a hammer to bang your foot, or you can build a house, right? So like, it's all about the intention you put into it. Anyway, through social media, a friend of mine from way back when I used to be a bartender reached out to me and said, hey, I saw you're doing a lot of cycling. Do you want to ride your bike across the state? And so I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, that sounds like fun. And then like a few weeks later, she's like, no, all right, so there's like a little bit of walking in there as well. Are you down to walk and bike across the state? I'm like, sure. And then she's like, all right, so it's 329 miles. You're going to be walking a marathon every day, followed by like a 14-mile bike ride. And we're going to be raising money to help children with cancer. And, I, to be perfectly honest, I was more interested in the physical challenge of it. Like, of course, like, yeah, a nebulous cause, or like, or not nebulous, but like, I didn't connect super strongly with the cause in the beginning. I was kind of, I don't know if it's an ego thing or just, to see if I could push myself. However, I found myself on this fundraising journey across the state called the Maryland Track, hosted by Justin Burke. He's this meteorologist. He's kind of like well known in the area, has a big following. And then I think, I procrastinated, so I didn't really train the walking part all that well. So after the first day, my feet, I didn't get x-rays, but I'm pretty sure I had stress fractures. I basically limped and hobbled the rest of the way after the first day. It was absolutely brutal.
Oh my gosh.
But a point, kind of like a turning point for me is this organization's really small and we're really hands-on with the families that we serve. So I started to meet some of the kids that we were, fundraising for. I got to meet their families. And I don't know. I do want to be a support for those in need. So after the first year, I was kind of in for the second year, met more families, had a blast, got more involved in the organization. And then the third year was 2020, and that was a big turning point because 3 of the kids that we had honored the previous year had passed away in the meantime. And I just, found myself feeling super frustrated with the state of affairs. 2020 was just a really crazy year. Lots of fighting, chaos. There was a lot of heartbreak within our organization because we lost the kids. And then there was uncertainty whether or not we would be able to fundraise and, do anything that year. But we pulled together a Maryland Trek during a pandemic, and we tend to average about 100,000 a year. We still brought in 80,000 during a really tough time, which I think was just a testament to the heart of everyone involved there. And then our title sponsor really came through at the last minute for the Maryland Trek, and he's a friend of mine, so I took him out to dinner, although I'm pretty sure he paid. But anyway, we went out to dinner, and a point of contact between he and I is that his father passed away from lung cancer a few years prior, and when I was 19, my mom had passed away from a few different complications. Ultimately, it was pneumonia, but she had diabetes, struggled with self-inflicted lifestyle problems, and then my father had passed away when I was 24, too. So that's a place where he and I kind of connected, and he was in the process of opening this. He's from Cleveland. He's opening a deli in Maple Lawn, Maryland, based on this deli in Cleveland where he and his father used to go almost every day. So I kind of half jokingly said, as a thank you, I'm how about I ride my bike from Cleveland to Maple Lawn, which is 418 miles. And so I did that in 4 days, and we raised about $30,000 for cancer research at the Cleveland Clinic.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so at this point, I'm all in. I don't know how to not care about, the people on the receiving end of the fundraising. I think a lot of stuff that gets the attention is the fanfare, it's the parade, it's the pageantry.
Yeah.
However, connecting more with the families we're supporting, I just don't know. I just can't get out. I'm totally screwed now because I don't have a summer anymore. It's all prepping, training, getting ready. Anyway, let me try to wrap this up. I connect with a local organization called the Horizon Day Camp. So they do a free summer camp for children with cancer and their siblings. And this is a massive service. I don't know if you guys here in the room have kids, but having kids in general, there's not a lot of time for anything else. You're drinking coffee and brushing your teeth. So when you have a child who's sick, it's even more so, right? So to have a resource where you can, the camp, they send the bus to your house. They have people on staff to actually, who are knowledgeable about the various, needs that these kids have. And I don't know, I get chills talking about this stuff. I feel I feel strongly about it, but just to be able to provide them a little bit of comfort and care, and then also show them that people care, because the stuff that gets attention most of the time is not the good stuff that's happening. It's
right.
The bulls. Do we cuss on this podcast?
It's a family show.
Normally
Yeah.
not.
All right, cool. So it's
BS.
it's the BS, it's the fighting, it's the train wrecks where we tend to shine the spotlight as a society because that's that captures our attention more.
Right.
So, not only am I raising funds bringing awareness to this camp, I'm also letting these families know that they're not alone in their fight. They're not alone in their journey. And as someone who's, the survivor of I mentioned my parents passed away, it's hard feeling like no one cares. And if I can show them, hey, I care, if I can get other people involved in the organization, get invited to, share, maybe, someone listening here might be more curious, might want to reach out.
Right.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful thing. And so I'm doing, that's the 500-mile ride. I'm aiming for $50,000. I'm currently sitting at about I want to say 16,000, but I think we need to add in a few more. I think we're close to 20.
Wow.
And then the other event, which really has my heart and soul, is the Maryland Trek. And that's a team event. That's when we're walking a marathon and then biking. And we start at Wisp in Western Maryland. We actually go through Frederick, where you guys are moving. And then 329 miles later, we're on the beach in Ocean City. And it's a beautiful event. I work closely with this organization. I do photography. We do family portraits for them. I get to actually meet the families. I mean, I love it. It's I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than I'm so grateful to stumble into this opportunity, and then just to have all these amazing opportunities to share my passion for it with other people, right?
That's awesome.
I'm gonna pause there because I know it's a lot.
That's
amazing
a lot of great stuff. I mean, I just want to applaud you for your noble efforts. I think that's something that we should all strive for. And because of after looking at your bio the other day, I actually did the same thing. So today I did it for St. Jude, 100 miles for the month of July. Now I'm not a super, you're looking at this guy right here. He's talking about 500 miles, right? I'll start at 3.5 miles a day and then work my way up. But I thought it was something, super important, because if you can, like I said, it's super noble. If you can do something that is helping other people at the same time just doing things that you love, why wouldn't you do it? You know what I mean? And I want to applaud you for that, from one man to another. I think that's super awesome. And I get super emotional about it because it's huge. You know what I mean? And I just from hearing your story so far, it's the things that you're doing, to inspire one person is what I like to think. If you can just get one person and inspire them to do something better and help more people, what else is there really? And it seems like you've already got one person. You're doing multiple, and I think that's super awesome.
Yeah, so, thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome. I'm glad you're stepping up, man. It's honestly if you want to improve the quality of, there's so many things we get into with improving the quality of your life, but being of service, especially, again, that's another thing, tying it back to my history of depression, anxiety. If I'm feeling depressed, if I'm really having a hard time getting out of bed, my first thought now is all right, how can I show up for someone? How can I be of service? Just give back in some capacity. And there's a few other things, definitely want to touch on health and wellness today as well, talking about the importance of food and proper nutrition and how we can advise people and be a resource for people who want to make those changes, which is really cool that you guys do what you do. Right. I'm not a customer of yours. I'd love to be, so maybe Justin and I can have that conversation offline. But I think that people don't fully appreciate the impact of high quality products. So, and I'm going to pause there because, again, it'll be the Peter show if I keep going.
That's the point, though. That's why we have you here today.
Yeah.
That's right.
But, so that's a good segue into the other thing that you do, which is these wellness retreats. So tell us a little bit about those, and what are some of the things that you're helping people with in terms of the health and wellness side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that I feel strongly about. I'm thinking more and more about how I can make a bigger impact for those around me. And I guess the genesis of all of that was mainly my massage practice. Part of the reason I started my own practice was I didn't like working in a factory type setting. I'm not nothing against a high-end spa experience, because there's value in a strictly relaxing massage, that environment, all that stuff is valid. Where I'm interested is just pain management, because the body is absolutely incredible, and if I can help address someone's pain through physical manipulation of the muscles, it's just interesting and exciting to me. However, I kept getting the question, like, why does my body hurt? Like, or what can I do? And, more often than not, in terms of health, there's this thing where pushing passive interventions that just kind of kick the can down the road a little bit tends to be the norm. And when I say passive intervention, that's receiving a massage versus an active intervention. Lift some weight properly, like prioritize your sleep. Again, eat well. Like every muscle contraction is, I don't know if you can say like a chemical reaction, but basically you need certain minerals to perform it. So if your body's not feeling good, if it's all jacked up and you're not drinking water, you're not like, you're eating food that's highly inflammatory, it's just, that's not going to result in a body that feels good. So I started like advising my clients to the best of my ability how to rearrange their life to prioritize health, and then they won't need me to work out that knot that, it just keeps coming back. It's like, well, yeah, like, I mean, if you keep driving over the same pothole every way on the way to work, you're going to mess up your tire. Your alignment's going to be off, So, like, change the way you drive. Like, so, and then, with the massage practice, not to sound like cheesy, but like, I'm like, I don't sell massage. I sell higher quality life. And I think that that is like a salesy thing to say, I think, but it's true for me. Like, I don't want you to come back and see me every week. I want you to take responsibility for your own health care and be proactive and be curious about how you can live better so that you're not dealing with whatever the thing is that it may be. So anyway, to tie that into the retreats, the end goal is that I serve as a platform to highlight different teachers in the various realms of health. So, I mean, imagine most people listening to this podcast listen to other podcasts related to health. So if you get a guy like Matthew Walker, who's specialized in sleep and studied it for years and can advise people on how to sleep more optimally to improve health, I love the idea of eventually having a retreat business that basically I would handle all the foundation. So like, preparing the meals, leading a movement practice in the morning, facilitating conversations, but then highlighting a teacher. So it wouldn't just be a weekend getaway. It'd be something where you'd walk away from it having gained a little bit of information to then add that to your arsenal of like how I'm going to protect myself.
Yeah.
So as far as like where it is, well, I can't say now because now it's nothing. COVID obviously shut all that down. But in 2019, it was like the beginning of all of that. So I did 6 retreats. They were small groups, about 6 people. A lot of them actually from the medical community. A good friend of mine is in OBGYN, so I refer to her as my gynecologist, which is like she loves it. But anyway, she helped me like kind of tap into different like. For whatever reason, a lot of our healthcare providers in this country struggle with health. And if you have long conversations with them, they're in an environment that doesn't promote health either. They have crazy hours, super stressful. They don't have a lot of resources to take care of themselves in a preventative way. So they suffer from the same ailments that the rest of Gen Pop does. Anyway, so I had an opportunity primarily like through her to lead weekend retreats. I would typically find a place out in, there's a lot of amazing, beautiful spots in West Virginia, which is only about like 2.5 hours from Baltimore, which I don't think a lot of people fully realize.
Yeah.
And you find like, beautiful cabins in the mountains. And I would basically just go out and show people, this is what life looks like when you can pause for a moment, when you can get a good night's rest, when you can not rush off in rush hour traffic to work, when you wake up and you start your day with some physical movement, some like, inner solitude, like quietness, like through meditation, and then quality conversation with those around you. It makes a big impact. And for me, I, in thinking about how I can have a big impact, I was happy to start working with a lot of people in the medical community because I think they are on the front line of, our healthcare in this country, right? So like if we can help them be more aware of how their lifestyle impacts health, even though it's a thing that they all know. They're all like super bright people.
Right.
But I think it's different to know something than to find out for yourself, right? So the retreats serve to basically give people, even though it's only 72 hours, it makes a difference. Like your heart is full after that kind of experience, like, yeah. So, so where it is right now is unfortunately nowhere. I had some stuff coming up, but honestly, with the the charity rides, it's been hard to focus on that. But I am chomping at the bit to get some on the schedule. Maybe in the fall would probably be a little bit soon. I think I probably just had to shelf everything until next year. But I cannot wait to ramp that up again. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be a way to really make an impact. And I think we just as a society need more opportunities to connect. Like, I'm a bit of an optimist. I see us hopefully transitioning into an economy no longer based on like mindless consumption of material goods, but let's consume experience, knowledge, and like stuff that like fills us up and fills our souls. So yeah.
Drop the bomb for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome.
This is about time for a bomb. There it is.
No, that's great stuff.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge opportunity here. I mean, with our networks, I mean, we've talked about doing something like this before, but we are so well connected with so many high level health and wellness people. We could put together a pretty amazing event with just a ton of knowledge, and with the networks, I think we could make it a little bigger than a small group, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to talk to you guys more about it. If we have an opportunity to collaborate in some capacity, or, I mean, I love this stuff. I want everyone to be doing it. Like, I really do think that it is something that I think we need a grassroots movement dedicated to connecting more of our neighbors and, just living life with health as our priority. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah. So absolutely. I would love to have that.
Yeah, if you're somebody watching this right now and a wellness retreat, something like that, a weekend away, reset your body, your mind, come away with knowledge, something like that. If that's of interest to you, drop a comment. Let's throw the feeler out there and see if we have some demand for this.
Right, absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it's something we talk about regularly on this podcast, is like teaching someone to fish as opposed to, kind of doing it for them, right? So I think that this aligns exactly with that. Like, you want to give the education to people so that they're not dependent upon you, that they can go out after receiving your services, after getting that education, and be able to kind of live the life, that they would have hoped for previous to. And I think that's like the biggest thing. You talk about your story. When I look at our story, it's just like that education piece is so huge. Once you know, it's hard to go out and not know something. You know what I mean? Once you've read it, once you know about it, it's kind of hard to like kind of walk away from that.
Yeah.
But if
there's something that kind of was an aha moment for me in my journey, is that, like, for the longest time, I thought that change wasn't possible. I was like, okay, I was born this way. I've always dealt with these issues. This is just how I am. And then, something we haven't touched on was, I lived out in Big Sur, California at this retreat center, which is also another thing that played into like my drive and desire to form my own retreats. But it's at the Esalen Institute, which is well known in some circles, and some other circles it's not. I was there and I saw someone just basically have a shift, like this pattern that they had been dealing with all their life. They were working with this facilitator and diving deep, doing some personal work, and a shift occurred. And so I'm like, oh, well, change is possible.
Wow.
And now that means, like, if I'm discontent with how I am or how I'm living or how I'm showing up in this world, that's on me. Right? So, like, if change is possible and you're aware of that, then if you're upset with your life,
change it.
You need to take ownership for it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's another bomb moment, I think.
That's the accountability moment. That's where all change starts, is when you own it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to be like, oh yeah, that was totally me. I'm the one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's completely responsible for all of this. So.
Yep. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we, especially in this country, we're so consumed with that victim mentality. You know what I mean? Like, it's happening to me. Like, what should I do? And then we get on this, like, what diet pill can I take? What can I do essentially to, like quick fix essentially, right? Like, there should be some, and it's just hard work, right? Yep. I think, if you can shed some light on how you started these 500-mile treks and stuff like that, like, you didn't just like grab the bike and just go, right? You kind of worked up to that, or how did that work?
Yeah, so like there's I mean that kind of ties into like different philosophies around coaching and behavior change, where like we tend to glorify this, and like, all right, so I'm an extreme guy, and I get myself into like not ideal situations where I have to like accomplish a really big goal and I only have this much time, I can't really train properly. However, I do that knowingly. I think that what I want to say is like for a lot of people, they want to make these changes all at once, right? And so we're talking about behavior change. So it's like, it's not, okay, I want to clean up my diet. How about I make a point to include, a couple of veggies and, a healthy source of protein at each dinner. It's like, okay, no sugar, no this,
Right.
no nothing. It's like all in. And the data, there's not a lot that is clearly proven with data, but like in terms of behavior change and adherence and adopting new behaviors, it's pretty clear that like those extreme measures like really suffer with adherence. Like they're not often sustainable, and it is, I don't know if it's like hypocritical for me to be like, oh, you should be like all or nothing, because that is kind of how I live my life. But I think for most people, the path to success is slow incremental changes. Like if I were to sit down with myself from 7 years ago and say, hey, look, man, you need to stop smoking, you need to eat well, you need to buy a bike, you need to get into strength training. Like I didn't do my first bench press until I was 29. Like I was not a healthy guy. I didn't actually flick my cigarette at people when they were running, but I used to like joke about it. I was pretty anti all things that I embrace and embody now.
Wow.
Which I think it's interesting. The people that know me now, and when they try to push back on like, oh, well, it's easy for you. Like this is how you are. And I'm like, you don't even know like the stuff that the way I treated my body, the challenges I faced, like it's not easy. However, to kind of like tie this back to, I think the point that you were hitting, I was like, you can't do all these things at once. It's like a slow incremental, like there's this one book, I want to say it's like a running book, but Relentless Forward Progress. So yeah, you don't have to grow in leaps and bounds, but I don't know what else to say about this that won't sound cliche, but just put one foot in front of the other. Like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Like all this stuff. It's just, like, so I mean, to highlight, I mean, change is possible. Do it slowly. Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Everywhere you go, there you are.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it sounds simple, but it's like you choose where you go, and that's where you're going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing, I mean, if we still have a moment, I'd like to get into is you mentioned recovery. So doing all these races, it's going to put a lot of stress on your body. So you mentioned, diet and, I think you said like stretching and like, movement essentially, of course, meditation. What are the things from someone who's doing these races and, crazy 500 miles, things like that, that are putting a lot of stress on your body? What's your regimen as far as like recovery goes?
Yeah. So I used to say that like the 5 things you need for health, I don't know if you want to call them like pillars or whatever, but it's like sleep, movement, like decent diet, mindfulness, and then deep and meaningful relationships. Oh God, and I think this is because of Matthew Walker, who is this, I don't know if you guys have discussed him on the podcast before, but he's a researcher. He's gone really deep into the effects of sleep on the body, and his book convinced me that like sleep isn't one of the pillars of health. It's like the foundation, right? So like if you're missing out on your sleep, like best of luck. Like good luck having, like if you're trying to make, dietary changes, like if you're exhausted, you're just chugging coffee just to get by in the morning, like it's going to be rough. Like you don't get stronger when you're lifting, you get stronger between sets. So like, and not like the individual set at the gym, but like you get stronger between workouts. So like the strength gains come when you're eating well, when you're getting to sleep. So as far as recovery during the ride, there is no recovery. There is just like,
going for it.
You're just, it's just, you have to be like
a savage.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think you have to, like, there's no normal people that I've met who are in like the longer endurance stuff that are like sane.
Yes.
Like there's just a little
Yes.
bit, like, you have some demons in there.
Yes.
Like you're running from something.
Right.
That is me in a lot of ways. But as far as like after the ride, so the challenge this summer is that it's what I keep telling people. Like so these rides bump up next to each other. So July 24th, I'm starting my 500-mile ride. And then I'm back for a week, and then I do the Maryland trek where I'm walking and biking across the state.
Wow.
And I keep telling people, I'm like, this is why, like, this is only because, like, I don't have a wife. Like, I don't have someone telling me that my ideas are bad, that I planned poorly, that I'm an idiot. Like, I'm out here on my own making bad decisions. No one's, like, keeping me in check. I don't get it. But, yeah, so, I mean, like, I don't have a lot of time to recover between these rides. But just in general, I think... I mean, the recovery, I think, has to be almost preemptive. That's why I'm a huge proponent of strength training. Like, you want to have a solid... I mean, basically, when I think about movement, the priority for me should be strength training. Whatever metric you're using to evaluate someone's health benefits from strength training. So, like, you want to improve bone density, a better, like, responsiveness to, like, sugars, like... You want to lose weight. You want to, have healthy joints. Like, with the caveat being, you should learn to train well. Like, invest in a trainer.
Right.
Like, if you don't have money for it, like that's tough. But like, find a way to prioritize that. I imagine you might be able to find some funds to invest in a knowledgeable trainer. And it's probably one of the best investments you can make. Actually, I know about you guys because of my buddy Les Raymond, who. Has talked about you guys for years,
Right.
and he's the one who trained me and was really a big part of my movement forward in health and wellness. Like we just, because it's not easy. Like if you're into prioritizing your health, you are the outcast. Like you are the outlier.
Yep.
Like, it's not. No one wants to get together for like after work to go on a hike. They want to go to happy hour. They want wings. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But
Right.
like for me, I'm like, does that help me feel my best? And more often than not, it doesn't. So I'm down to do it every once in a while, but I want to be like the exception versus the norm.
Yeah.
And so like having people like less in my life, and now I have a great social network of people that do have similar values and
Right.
they're trying to live well, and I get to do fun things with them that are a little bit more active. What was the question? I don't even know.
No.
Just a little tangent.
No, we're just going. I think we're all pretty familiar with kind of what you're saying, just because like we meet on a weekly basis and we do this and we try to incorporate like other people, but I think we all kind of feel the same way, in that it's like it's a choice. First of all, it's something that you make every day, right? It's not just like a one-time thing, and then it's an investment. Like you're making that decision to invest in your food or the convenience of being able to work out via a trainer or whatever that is, but you're making those choices that will make it possible, like make it more convenient for you to be doing that stuff on a regular basis, and long term, doing the right thing over and over again is only going to benefit you, more.
Yeah. I guess this is a question for everybody. Do you think, because we hear this all the time, like I guess people that are living or trying to live a healthy lifestyle are the minority, right? Do you think that it's because we're so spread out, because we're not all kind of like in these same sort of groups, that it seems like, you know what I mean? Like you're the only person? Because I feel like we have people on the podcast all the time, and as we keep doing this podcast, like the group just keeps growing larger and larger and larger. And I almost feel like soon that minority may become the majority. Like people are starting to care about the food that they eat. They're starting to care about exercise. Do you guys?
I mean, I think it's the only way forward. I mean, you want to address healthcare in this country. You want to address, I mean, I don't know if this will possibly come off. Oh man, I don't want to open up this can of worms, but like, all right, let's say
it.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, like, I mean, I found that not. No, I'm going to stay away from that because I don't want to be controversial in a way. I think if you want to have a healthy, robust immune system, like you want to, like.
See, but let's talk about this moment. Like, why do we
right.
have to why do we have to sugarcoat the truth when we're trying to help people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that the
And it's
delivery
just
of
because
the message
people
is a consideration. At least that's for me, right? So if I come out here, like, I think that, and also I'm big on thinking about or communicating what I'd like to see versus putting energy and time into stuff that I disagree with, that I see as like missing, right? So like with a kid or like in a relationship, let's say like, I have a buddy of mine and he always does this thing. Instead of saying, don't do that, I say, how about you do this instead, right? And so that's a great way to resolve conflict.
Like offering a solution instead of just pointing out the problem.
I think I'd like to focus on like what I believe I want to promote versus my frustrations around what isn't being promoted. So like I would very much like to promote like, again, I want to be in a body that's resilient, able to meet the demands that I place on it, that is able to be well defended from, any type of pathogen. Like I'm going to prioritize my sleep. I'm going to eat well. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to have a social circle that works well for me. I'm going to manage my stress through mindfulness. So those are the things that I want to push forward as a way of living to be more resilient, because I want to be harder to kill too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's, again, that's something that we speak about a lot, but that is not like, again, Justin mentioned it, like sugarcoating, you know what I mean? Like I think it's important in the way that we portray the message, but I also think that like I saw a post the other day, Justin, you probably saw the same way. Brian Sweeney posted something that was just like, talking about all these things as far as like what's going on now, and was like, we're worried about these certain things, but we're not talking about, the things that people are eating. People are dying every day from heart attacks. People are dying every day or from type 2 diabetes. Like people are dying every day from these things that we can control, right? Some of these other things we can't control,
Certainly.
like what happens, but those things we can, but we're not talking about it. That's kind of like swept under the rug. It's kind of like, oh, don't worry, you can eat your fast food and, what. And I'm not trying to bash fast food, but it's one of those decisions that I used to make that now I know, it's like, that's a no-go. Because you can't think of being productive. You can't think of really like, being your best self if you're making those decisions.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you got to just ignore the peanut gallery. It's going to be what it is,
It's going to be there no matter what.
Yep, you got to just worry about your tribe. If someone's not, down for the good info and they want to call you a fat shamer when you're trying to, extend people's longevity, what are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was I going to say? I just blanked there. Feed me another question.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of seeing, we talked about, the fact that you're doing these long treks, the health and wellness lifestyle. What does your diet consist of on a daily basis?
Oh my gosh, this is where I'm going to sound like a real psycho.
Probably not to us.
This is true. Yeah, I mean, right now I am so pressed for time. And so that's a thing I would hear a lot too in working with clients, because we always hear it's too expensive, I don't have the time. So let me give you a breakdown of what today looks like, because this is what most of my days have looked like for the past few weeks, and what my days will most likely look like for the next until the 24th, essentially. But I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. I did just have coffee. I didn't mean to do like a fasting workout, but I rode my bike 40 miles, got back. I didn't have time to have like a full-on meal, so I took 2 packets of salmon and put that in a bowl with hot sauce, and like,
boom.
And like, all right, good to go. Ran down. I had a photography and videography project down in Maple Lawn, so took care of that. And then zipped over here, and I will probably stop by Wegmans and get a rotisserie chicken and eat that. I've been making a point to get in thinking about time, I have I'll pay the extra for the pre-cut veggies, the mixed salads or whatever. I'll put that in a bowl and do olive oil, balsamic, salt, pepper, be good to go. And I'm really trying to hit that 200 grams of protein per pound of body weight, because I'd like to maintain muscle. At a bare minimum, I doubt I'm hitting the calories that are appropriate, again, for the time. And I don't think an appropriate solution is to eat donuts just for calories.
Right.
Nothing against donuts. Again, like I feel like I want to give that caveat. It's just like that's not really in line with how I want to feel these days. So
yeah.
And then in speaking about the importance of sleep, I've been having trouble sleeping on and off for the past like 5 or 6 years. So I have to be mindful of what I'm eating toward the end of the day.
Yep.
So I like to not eat too close to bedtime, but I think just the way my schedule is, I need something. So I'll do like a shake with, I use like Organifi, and then I'll put in some like frozen fruit rather, and call it a day. And honestly, some days I feel like I'm under eating by quite a bit, but I'm doing the best I can. And literally, it's just like, it's a really crazy time right now. That's a little bit different than how I normally live my life. I'd have more robust meals, and so I wouldn't necessarily advise what I'm doing for others, which actually ties into an interesting point related to health and wellness, as far as like what works for someone might not work for you. So there's a lot of data out there supporting different thoughts, theories, diets, regimens, whatever, but it's always an N=1 experiment. And so, that's where I think, one of the important qualities to have if you're curious about improving your life is you need to have a little bit of self-awareness and evaluate how things are impacting you. So if your buddy's doing keto and crushing it, and you're doing keto and you don't have any energy, keto might not be for you.
Right.
Like if someone else is vegan, thriving and doing great, fantastic. If it, try it. If it doesn't work for you, like it doesn't work for you. So I think just be curious, and every now and then I will dabble in specific like diets. I find that anything restrictive in any kind of capacity doesn't work for me. I think that ties into that whole like I don't like being told
stubborn,
what not to do.
You can't eat this.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, right.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I find that I will explore other diets and programs just to see how it impacts me. But I almost always come back to quality sources of protein, a healthy amount of veggies, and typically eating real food aside from the protein powder, which I won't say it's a necessary evil. It's just I typically, in general, would rather not have anything like super processed. But that just seems to be a necessity. And I don't want to paint a picture that I'm this way all the time. Like I also do have an affinity for cake pops from Starbucks.
Hey.
Yeah. So like there's and
You gotta live.
well, yeah, and also, here's the thing: like, none of this stuff, like, I wouldn't label any of this stuff as bad or good. It's more about like, does this serve me? Is it in line with my current goals? And like I go out to eat too. Like I will have beers. I will, I don't find anything to be like super restrictive. Like I think I have a solid balance, and I'm also evaluating how am I feeling now. I know if I have those beers, I know I'm not sleeping that night. I know the next day is shot. I know that given the current demands that I have on my body, like, I mean, maybe I'll have a drink once in a while, but I need to wake up early and perform, or I'm really, no matter what, I'm going to suffer at the end of this month, riding my bike. I'm just in charge of how much suffering there is, right?
That's such a good way to put it, yeah.
So another super
Love
interesting
that.
question.
About
What about when you're
preparation.
writing? What do you eat?
So that's when I hate my options. I haven't found a good solution for that. And I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to nutritional strategies for endurance. I just haven't gone into that topic too much.
Yeah.
I did link up with actually a new client of mine is she does Ironmans. She's a total can't say that. She is amazing.
Bad Mama Gemma.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. But she performs exceptionally well, and she was trying to tell me about the stuff, although this is processed too, but basically it's sort of like high calorie thing that she drinks during those events that does well. Honestly, man, like the first day I tend to do big dinners really light during the day, because when you're riding your bike for like 12, 14 hours,
you're not hungry, right?
I am doing goo and like other whatever I can do just to kind of get a little bit of energy. I'll put the electrolytes in my water. That's not the way to.
I got a suggestion for you.
Please, anything.
Have you heard of highly cyclic dextrin?
No, I don't even think I could say that word. Highly cyclic dextrin. Yeah, I could run upstairs and grab the bag, but it's basically a really high quality carbohydrate that
you can, so I do a scoop of it right before I do cardio when I play hockey, and I'll sip on it sometimes while I'm playing. So it's like a really high quality version of a Gatorade. So it's not sugar, but it's highly cyclic dextrin.
Pure.
So yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
read
please
read about that. It's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, Shannon, I don't know if you're making notes.
am.
If you could like send me an
Yeah.
email with some of that, because I really am. Yeah, I'd love to have better options, because the last few rides I did, I mean, after a while, I'm just thriving on not thriving, I'm surviving on sugar and caffeine.
Yeah.
And like my jaw would hurt at the end of it, and I just feel like, just cracked out. Can't think
There's
well.
only so much liquid IV you can take.
Yeah, it's not optimal, and that's just not a thing where I've had proper coaching. So if I were advising me, I would tell me, you should probably link up with an endurance coach and talk about them if you want to continue with this.
Right.
There's this other thing that because we're going to do a Spartan race. I don't know if you know about obstacle course racing, but we have like a huge one coming up this summer, and they are talking about, it's called Banana Bag. And I think it's kind of like what you're talking about, Justin. It's like a really high quality, super like souped up version of like, like an electrolyte powder you'd put in your drink. And I don't know. I'll put a link for that too in the email.
That's why I asked, because when we do these races, it's one thing.
We're the same thing. We're like looking it up on Google, and we're like,
'Cause
okay,
you're not
gel
hungry.
packs
You know
and
what I mean?
salt
You're-
tabs, and
You're like
And also
6
the
miles in.
anticipation, like
Fingers crossed.
I am like just like, I'm even now I'm nervous. I'm nervous about this whole thing, and I will be until that last moment. And I'm like, thank God that's over.
Yeah.
But it's just my stomach's in knots.
Yeah.
Like it's a pretty big undertaking. I feel there's a lot of pressure too. I think a lot about, and I'm out there, like there's a point at which like you get beyond the preparedness of your training, right? Like there's just no training for, well, I guess maybe there is, not if you have a job.
at that point,
like
that's where you get to the one foot in front of the other. Right?
Yeah,
Well,
well,
it's
then,
just-
like you have to like dig deep.
Yeah.
I think a lot about like I think a lot about the kids. I think a lot about I will think about like my own suffering. I will think about like the frustration I experience about the state of the world at times, and just feel I tap into whatever it may be that plays a hurt to like kind of keep going forward. But
Right.
it's a pretty emotional experience
It
all
is.
around. Like it's
I think it's
It's a
awesome.
valley and then the hill, right? At the top.
yeah.
Yep.
So.
And you talk about, like people that do this aren't necessarily, like you would think that they're crazy because they have to, dig deep into these dark places to like keep going. Because we read
get
the book
through.
from David Goggins. I don't know if you read it. Can't Hurt Me. And he talks about doing these endurance races, and it's like the same thing where he's just like, like I feel like all endurance racers, like you get to a certain point where no matter if you're training, your diet, whatever, you get to a certain place just with the human brain where it's just like, it's overpowering any other obstacle that's
I
out
will
there.
be out there. I'd be like, I'm just
Can't
callousing my mind. I'm callousing
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah.
Channel David Goggins.
Yeah. You guys should
Shout
have
out.
him on this family.
As I say,
family
shout out David
podcast.
Goggins.
Oh, yeah, right,
Let
yeah.
us know if you'd like to come on the podcast.
We'd
We'd have to get a
little,
beep.
yeah.
Right, exactly. Just leave it on the whole time. Just,
No. But do you listen to music or anything like when you're? It just
No.
see that's what they
just
say.
being the demons, man.
Yep.
Nice.
Just out there, like, I mean,
That's awesome.
I think there is a cleansing of the soul. You mentioned like it is altruistic. Like I do care about why I'm there, why I'm riding.
Yeah.
I connect deeply with the cause, but it's not completely selfless. Like I derive a lot of value. It is just like I don't. People keep telling me like you're gonna burn out, and like she wrote something on social media a while back. I'm like, you're so right. Like I am gonna burn out. I feel like this is worth burning for. Like I think this is like like definitely like let's
do
get
it.
a match, let's make it happen. But I think in that burning is like that you had that cleansing of the soul. Like there is just like when you exert yourself physically to that level where you've pushed further than you ever have before, when you thought you were done, but you like physically done, but you still have 90 some miles to go or whatever. It's like we're in for it. We're doing it, and that's another thing where I get chills.
I
again.
got the
like
chills.
like it's just So
Awesome.
yeah. There's this. It's like a wringing out, like a dirty sponge, and then you're on this trip, and it's just like getting all of it out there.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good way to put
It's
it.
also like being.
I got a good one for you on burnout.
What's up?
Yeah.
Yeah, people say that you're gonna burn out. Like, why do you burn the candle at both ends? You can't do that. Those are people that compare themselves to a candle, and you know that you're just not a candle.
There you go.
So you can burn it on both ends.
True that.
There you
I
go.
also tell people it's like being in an abusive relationship, because when I'm out there, I'm like, what did I get myself into? Like, why did I sign up for this?
Always.
Yes. Every time.
This was a huge mistake. I don't know if you watch like Arrested Development, but was it Gob or whatever? He'd be like, oh, I made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And that's me out there. Like, especially like the first few miles, I'm like,
Yep.
woo.
Oh, yeah.
20 minutes in, I got like hours and hours to go.
Yep.
And I didn't touch my bike after the ride from Cleveland to Maplewood, really until like I started training late this summer. So I didn't touch my bike, I think, until like late in May, maybe a little bit earlier. Because I was done with that. I was like, I don't want to be on that bike. I'm never going to be on that bike again. And then like the time goes by, you start to like romanticize certain elements of it. You're like, it wasn't bad all the time. We had good moments.
Yeah, that's the
No,
craziness. That's the
yeah.
craziness. That's where you're like, oh, it was good. It was
It would be-
fine. I
it
love
would
that.
be-
It would be
It would be
different this
fun.
time.
Exactly.
It's not different. It's the same. It's suffering, but it's also beautiful. And I don't know how to not do it.
That's
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'm
I
inspired.
talk to myself when I'm pushing through cardio, and this is gonna maybe this sound weird, maybe it won't, but I'm always thinking, like when I'm breathing really hard, I'm like, okay, I'm cleaning my brain. Oxygen's coming in, it's going out. I'm cleaning my brain right now. And it's like
Yep.
the
Yep.
blood's pumping. I'm like, I'm cleaning my arteries. I just
Absolutely.
like keep telling myself how much I have to do this. It's like cleaning your bathroom. You don't want to do it, but you got to do it. I'm like, I'm cleaning my body right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I find for like I do like that. And yeah, you are like pumping blood. Like I do find that I do my best thinking when I'm doing some sort of cardio something.
Yeah.
You know, I think if I were to be on a treadmill inside, I probably would listen to music or a podcast or something like that.
Yeah.
But I find that, you know, when I'm riding, it's when I have my moments of inspiration and I find clarity. And there's actually a book that speaks to that. What was it? It's like Peak, and I forget who the author is, but the book basically compares these high performers across these different disciplines. So be it like business, academics, athletic pursuits, and they all talk about the importance of like having that like downtime. I don't know if you would necessarily consider cardio downtime. It's time where you're not answering emails, in communication with another person.
Just
like
locked in.
you had that solitude, and that is where you can kind of like turn off for a moment, chill out, recover mentally to be like do your best thinking during those mindless tasks. You know, you solve the math problem in the shower. I'm not a big math guy, but I heard that's what happens.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I feel like, and this is something I get better at, is when you're on a run and you do get those thoughts, is how do you capture them? Because it's like, you know, you're thinking about certain things and you're like, oh, I have the answer to it. And then at the end of the run, you're like, I had it. What was it?
What was it?
What was that thing that I thought?
I have I don't know how many crazy messages to myself where I'm like not all of them are good.
Yeah.
But I record myself, man, because I will. That was like a thing. Like when I think about like what I want to do with my business, how I want to design these retreats, how I want to reach more people. Like I don't. I want to capture some of that because I feel like my best ideas have come from that. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. I think it's that solitude, right? You're just out there with just you and yourself.
Yeah.
And it gives you that.
Absolutely.
It's good stuff.
I mean, we can go
I
all
learned
day.
a lot. I was going to say we could talk about this all day.
Because I'm picking up
We've
so
been
much
going
things.
for we're at 58 minutes right now. This
I
is
know.
a good one.
We're going for 60 minutes. But no, I mean, it's all great stuff. I feel like, you know, even if you're not into the whole endurance athletics thing, it's great to hear about it from, you know, in a real person's perspective and, you know, kind of like what their journey's been from where you were to like where you are now and stuff.
Yeah, if I can for a moment talk about how special I am, I think what's of note is that I am no one. You know, or I don't want to say no one, but I'm not an author. You know, like I'm not, you know, someone, like I am very much just like some dude. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, I don't have like this, you know, any kind of fame or notoriety or some sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, in a, you know, wanting to possibly impart some, I won't say like wisdom, but, you know, maybe I am speaking to someone who's not sure about whether or not they can make some big changes in their life. Like I am very much no different than anyone else. Like I am you in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Like, and so if you're curious about any of the stuff that I've talked about or want to explore it, and you have stories about why you can't, I think you need to pause for a moment and evaluate the validity of those stories. Because I do think that's where I do have a little bit of extra influence, or I suppose clout, when working with people and talking about behavior change, because, like, I've been really into things worse than cigarettes. So if you say you're having a hard time making this adjustment because of, you have a hard time not doing whatever the behavior change is, I can say, come from a place of having been there and having done a lot of that, like, it's all possible. Like, so I think I can serve to challenge those stories we tell ourselves to hold ourselves back from living the life that we want to live or doing whatever it is that we want to do.
Absolutely.
So,
Wow.
And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like, you've already inspired me to take it, to the next level and do these things for a greater cause. So,
absolutely.
Now that's my mindset is, who can I inspire as well? And do the same thing, because, what else is there really other than this inspiration and doing these things for people that are less fortunate. And I don't want to, even if it's for whatever reason, as long as it's a good cause, like, why not? Like, I think it's a great idea, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we definitely have to link up. I know Justin mentioned, like, hey, maybe we do some sort of, like, retreat or something like that, but like some sort of education.
With you guys. Absolutely. Whatever that looks like, I think that'd be a fun topic to explore. If you guys want to do that, fully support you however I can. I think just we need more of it, and people need you. You know what I mean? Like, I think you need to approach these pursuits as, like, and I feel it's a mission, man. Like, I really do feel like this is why I'm alive. Like, how can I show up for others? And I think you guys should absolutely step into that. I think you got a great culture here. I mean, we didn't dive into your programs. I imagine your listeners have, but what you're trying to put out there, you're not just selling food, man. Like, you're selling, like, a better way of living, like a cleaner, happier life.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
That's the idea. That's why we do the podcast. It's why we do all the stuff we do.
It's information, right? Like, that's what people I feel they're missing. It's just, this is information, just like what you're doing. You're putting it out there. Your mission is to, like, help people and bring light to the certain things that you're doing. And we're trying to do the same exact thing. And that's why, like, when we mention it, to not be a minority, to make this way of thinking, to make these things a majority, we have to have a team, right? Like, whenever you think about other businesses and all that, it's not one person. It's a team of people that create these movements.
It's a community.
It's a community. Yeah. So I think it's super important. Like I said, appreciate you coming.
We appreciate your time. We know you're obviously super busy, so you described your schedule for the day. So
are you running home, or you have a
appreciate
car?
you taking the
I'm
time.
taking the car home. I gotta go see a client. Then I'm doing a photo shoot later. It's a lot. I'll be done around like 10 tonight. So
oh my goodness gracious. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. We'd love to, like, have you back, and we'll definitely connect about, how we can partner together.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and Justin, I think with that, you can go ahead and send us off.
Or if he has anything.
This has been great. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, Peter. Thanks for making the guest appearance, AJ. And the thing that I will leave you with that little topic is just that the information is useless without action, and the action is worthless with the wrong information. So put the two together, it'll all work out. And with that, we'll be back next week. Stay healthy with Heartland.